Great. Welcome in, everyone. I'm happy to have you as for this webinar. My name is Jay Earhart. I am one of the faculty in the Department of Civil, Environmental, and Architectural Engineering at the University of Colorado Boulder. And today I'm joined by a panel of recent alumni of the ACE Mentor Program, as well as then some alumni of CU Boulder. And we're looking forward to having a fun conversation about where you can go after you're a part of the ACE Mentor Program. So this webinar came to be through some mutual connections that we had at the University of Colorado Boulder and the ACE Mentor Program. So Whiting Turner, who Heather is representing today, is one of the companies that has been involved on both sides of things that's helped connect us and bring this webinar to fruition. And so, Michelle, do you want to share anything from the ACE Mentor Program side?
We're just, excuse me, we're really excited to be here with you guys, and we're happy. The curriculum team is really excited to provide more opportunities for students to see other places that they can go and to see what's happening, the research and the exciting things that are happening at different universities. So we're glad that we could partner with CU Boulder and also with Whiting Turner to make this happen. So thank you very much for having us.
Great. Thanks, Michelle. So I'll go ahead now and introduce our panelists, and then we'll get us kicked off with a couple of questions. So I'll begin with Heather. So Heather Island is a Colorado native, and she spent her personal and professional time along the Front Range. So during her college career, and after graduating from CU Boulder with a bachelor's degree in environmental design, where she focused in architecture, Heather then worked part-time within the facilities management department here at CU, and got the experience to work and interact with professionals from all different backgrounds and ages. Then, during her 15-year career, now at Whiting Turner, she's been given plenty of opportunities for leadership and engagement with teams on a variety of projects. She's the Mountain States Regional Coordinator, as well as the regional coordinator within Whiting Turner's Women Employee Resource Group. Mariana Garcia is a lighting designer at HLB Lighting Design, and that's where she works on large commercial projects such as airports, stadiums, and convention centers. Mariana recently graduated from CU Boulder with a bachelor's and master's degree in architectural engineering. During her time, she also on some research where she pursued a master's thesis on the pulse width modulation of light or commonly referred to as Flickr. She's a Colorado native as well from Pueblo, just 2 hours south of Denver. And outside of her work, she enjoys running, watching her sister's softball games, and other outdoor activities. Our next panelist is Aiden Smith. So Aiden is a fourth-year student studying architectural engineering with an emphasis in structural engineering here at CU. Aiden joined the ACE Mentor Program while in high school because he was really interested in learning more about architecture in the built environment, which we'll hear a bit more about. He found that the ACE program from the mentors and the peers that he worked with really helped shape where he is in pursuing an engineering degree. And then our last panelist is JT Lowicki. JT is a senior, also majoring in civil engineering here at CU. He's originally from Louisville, Colorado, and enjoys hiking 14ers. While in high school, JT's ACE project that he worked on was the design of an elementary school. And he recently has decided to go into the construction, engineering, and management side of the industry, where he'll be moving up to Anchorage, Alaska here after graduation and for this upcoming summer. We have one more panelist who wasn't able to join us today as he's currently sitting in a chemistry midterm. So before I hand it off to these panelists to tell a little bit about their stories, I want to share a quick video that the student Elias recorded. So he didn't want to miss out. So let me get this screen share up real quick. All right.
Hello, everybody. I'm Elias Mystery. Sorry I couldn't attend. I have a midterm as of right now. So, to start with myself, how do I get into this journey? So I was born in Venezuela, and I've been living here in Colorado for about 6 years. This is my first year in architecture engineering, and I personally love it. I decided on majoring in architecture engineering because I've always really liked Legos and also math. So I just put both of the worlds together, and ACE also helped me decide that I wanted to do architecture engineering because some of my mentors were in that industry, and I found it really interesting. So I wanted to try it, and I'm here. Uh, I joined ACE last semester of my senior high school year because of a friend that recommended it to me, and I thought it was going to be a great idea, and it was. I got to work on projects, even use Revit and SketchUp. I really enjoyed it. It gave me the opportunity to talk to many mentors that knew about the industry and have like hands-on projects. What I enjoy the most of about studying civil architecture engineering at CU is the resources we have as students, because there's so many opportunities here at CU Boulder that gets other companies that come, not only other companies that are like called for meetings or anything, but alumni that came here and they come and give chances to other students. The student community is wonderful here, and the professors want to see you succeed, just like Ahar over here, right? I don't know where he is between these two, but and what's something I wish I knew before coming into college? It was that a lot of the material is not taught. It's not. They don't teach you in the class, so you have to learn it yourself. And for me, this is like one of the most important. The first 2 weeks of college are the most important to make friends, to make connections, to find your like perfect study spot, which me is this library, and just get to used to living by yourself or living with a roommate in college life. Thank you. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the presentation.
Thanks, Elias, for sharing your thoughts there to help kick us off. So to move us along to the panelists that are here, Mariana, do you want to maybe introduce yourself a little bit more in depth and share, where are you at in your career journey and how did you get there?
Yep, thank you for the introductions. As Professor Earhart mentioned, I am Mariana Garcia. I just finished college in May. I completed my master's in May. And so this recently, the past few months, I've transitioned to full-time employment. And it's been a really fun journey so far. I've really just dove into this new life and making new routines and figuring out what, the transition away from school means for me. I got interested in architectural engineering because I was traveling a lot for sports when I was younger. And so while my parents were driving me, I would look out the window and I would see some amazing buildings. And my dad was in construction. And so sometimes when we were driving, he would say, "Oh, I helped with that building. And, I helped with this building." And I could see how happy he was describing that to me. And so when I was younger, it really made an impact on me to see that if I was a part of the construction industry, I could leave my mark on the world. And some of these buildings will stand the test of time. And so that's what really inspired me. And so when I did start school at CU Boulder, I had no idea lighting was even a field within architectural engineering, but the more I studied, the more I was interested in both the creativity aspects, but also keeping those math and science and engineering problems. And lighting was the way that I could blend the two together. And so I found a little niche in lighting, and I've really enjoyed doing research about it, but also diving into really fun projects that can eventually leave my mark on the world. So that's my introduction, but I'm looking forward to the panel.
Great, thank you. JT, do you want to go ahead and share a little bit about
Hi,
your path, or your
hi
path?
guys. I'm JT. Like Jay said, I'm a fourth year at CU Boulder studying civil engineering. I have kind of a unique path. I actually transferred from my first university to CU Boulder. And I've been civil engineering the entire time, but the the transition from a different university to CU has been wonderful. CU has the resources to help you ask questions um, and really guide you through that process of transferring. Like Jay said, I did ACE in high school, and I was also lucky enough to go to a high school that offered a like kind of civil and architectural class, and that's kind of where I fell in love with kind of the whole industry itself, along with like Elias said, Legos. I've loved Legos my entire life. More specific, like the Lego modulars. Um, I think like I really had a point in like my time in high school when I knew I chose the right kind of industry is when Ace kind of offered a site tour of the project that we were working on. And so I went on that site tour and I got to see kind of the whole like background of the project that we were working on. And I was talking with the project engineer on the site and seeing all the different plans. And I was like, this is what I want to do. There's so many different kind of niches of this building that I didn't really think of. And I kind of want to learn more of. So that's when I kind of knew that this is the right career for me.
Great. Thanks for sharing. Aiden, do you want to elaborate a bit more about how your path into where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, my name's Aiden. I'm a senior at CU Boulder studying architectural engineering with a focus on structural systems. I'm from Louisville, Colorado, which is 20 minutes east of Boulder. Me and JT went to the same high school, which is kind of how we became good friends. And that's where I kind of got introduced to the industry first too. Growing up, I was interested in architecture and the built environment. My parents would give me architecture books, and I loved looking at these really big structures. And I thought it was a really cool sort of field. So I always had an interest in architecture. And then as I got into high school, I was able to take math classes, which I really enjoyed. Got offered these engineering classes, which were really helpful. And that's how I found the ACE program. Um, and then once in the ACE program, I really loved working with the team and working to deliver a deliverable. It was a pretty fun experience relative to the other like algebra classes we were taking, which kind of got me hooked on it. Um, so I'll talk about it a little bit throughout the panel as I've kind of explored my way around with the help of faculty mentors and industry mentors. But I found my way back to this sort of architecture, construction, engineering industry, and it's a really good place to be.
Great. Thanks, Aiden. And Heather.
Yeah, hello everyone. Yeah, thank you, Jay and Michelle, for putting this together. And I just say like congrats to everybody who's on the call because I think you're getting a really cool sneak peek and kind of head start on, understanding what education and career opportunities exist. I definitely did not know what all was out there until honestly until I was later into my college career. So I think it's great. Like Jay mentioned, I'm a project manager with Whiting Turner. I've been with Whiting Turner now for 15 years, but my interest with architecture, similar to I think everybody on this call, started fairly early. My grandpa was an architect and designed buildings around the metro area. I always loved building things, seeing fancy homes. You see those $1 million homes. Back in the day, $1 million was a lot for a home. And then I would go to construction sites with my dad. He was an electrical engineer, worked for Excel Energy, and so same thing. Like I think being out on site, seeing the construction, it just was interesting. Definitely it intrigued me. I was lucky also that my high school had drafting classes. I think not all high schools have that kind of opportunity, but I was able to kind of play around with how to draw things using drafting tables and lettering sets. I had a really passionate teacher that just made me very excited about what a career would look like, at least in design. And so when I was trying to figure out where to go to school, I was looking for more design and architecture related programs, and that's how I ended up at CU. And loved the program there. I eventually, while I got my degree in the environmental design and architecture, I eventually then found more of a passion in the construction and kind of the management of the actual projects being built. So we can talk more about that later, but that's kind of how I, kind of ventured into where I'm at today.
Lovely. Thank you. So JT or Aiden, I want to maybe toss a question to you, just since you're currently students at CU Boulder. Is there something that you're enjoying most about your time here over the past, 3, 4 years?
Yeah, I can get us started. I think just that our program is really in a unique spot and gives you a really broad and diverse view of the engineering industry. Um, Architectural engineering gives you a really big background base of knowledge. So we start with sort of an architectural studio classes where you get drafting experience and learn about architectural concepts. And then as you go through your coursework, you can take more technical courses in mechanical systems, electrical systems, structural lighting, construction management. So we really get the full scale view of what buildings are and how they're built. And I think that's really valuable part of our program. And it's not something that you can come around very often, I think.
How about you, JT?
Yeah, kind of adding on to that. CU is a big university. There's no doubt about that. But our department is still kind of small. You're not going to have like an individualized class of more than 50 people. Like that's pretty atypical, unless you're in like a gen ed. And like what Aiden said was like how diverse like the both fields are. For civil engineering, you can take classes in structural, geotech, water resources, environmental, construction management. There's just so many different opportunities.
Has there been a class, JT, that's really brought things to life for you in terms of what engineering is or what being a civil engineer is?
Oh, yeah. Well, CU is an R1 university, so they have a lot of like research kind of capabilities, and one of the research capabilities they have is one of the largest centrifuges on pretty much on the planet, and that's deep within kind of like the engineering building in this big concrete case. And I took a geotech class, and we didn't use the centrifuge, but we were able to tour it. And then we were also able to use like the smaller centrifuge that a lot of the research people, like grad students, were using. And just seeing kind of all the different capabilities that you have access to in these courses is pretty awesome. And I feel like it's pretty atypical for universities to allow you to use those things. I also, one of my favorite classes I've taken was like the intro to construction class. And a project that we worked on was kind of designing and building and constructing a airport hangar, but like at a small scale. And that consisted of the whole building process, so designing, talking with the construction team, the design team, and that was such a cool process.
Great. Mariana, if I remember right, you were pretty involved with the Illumination Engineering Society as a student group. Do you want to maybe elaborate or share a little bit more about what your time was like with with leading a student group and just what a student group is?
Yeah, definitely. So I was a part of the Illuminating Engineering Society my junior and senior year of undergrad, and then I would still regularly attend events in my graduate uh, here. And that being a member and being an officer was very interesting because not only did I get to attend really cool events on campus or off campus, but I also got to connect with a lot of different people interested in lighting. So whether that be some of my fellow classmates or even some lighting designers, lighting manufacturers, a lot of different people that had a different involvement in lighting, and it showed me all of the different opportunities that could be available just in one little section of architectural engineering. And it was a really cool experience throughout the um, 3 years I was involved because I was able to attend two conferences. And now that I've transitioned into full-time employment, I've also been involved in the local chapter for the professional group. So it's just a good experience. I would recommend to any college student that it's good to just connect with people, even if you don't know that this is what you want to work in or what you want to do. It's good to just go to those events because not only do you meet people, but you also can learn different aspects of that you're not getting from class. And so it's just a great experience that I would recommend. Transportation Security Administration.
Right. Aiden, if I remember right, you switched your majors, was it twice? You
You
want to
bet.
maybe share a
Yeah.
little bit about just what led you to change and how you
Yeah.
finally settled on architectural engineering?
Yeah. So I did 2 years of ACE in high school, and I really enjoyed it and knew that it was something that I could kind of fall back on. It was something I liked, but going into college, I kind of wanted to explore a little bit more. So as a freshman, I came in as an electrical and computer engineering major. Um, I knew that wasn't right pretty quickly. Um, but I was able to kind of fall back on my experiences in the ACE program in high school. Um, it was something that I enjoyed and I really liked that hands-on process that we got versus electrical engineering, which was um, it was hard to visualize for me. So I switched over to civil engineering. My uh, I think end of freshman year, I switched over. So sophomore year, I took some civil classes. I took a surveying course, which was really fun. Um, and then I got some exposure to other classes, but I realized that I really liked buildings. I took a mechanics of materials class, and I really enjoyed the structural side of things, but wanted to focus more on buildings. So I kind of reached back out to my ACE mentors and some faculty at CU Boulder, and they helped me sort of find my path into architectural engineering. Um, and now I've stayed for 2 years. So it's good. Yeah, I like
And
it.
you'll be graduating too in architectural
Yeah,
engineering.
yeah. So I'll graduate in architectural engineering this spring. And then next fall, I'll start my master's degree in architectural engineering at CU.
Great. So now we understand a little bit of, what it's like to be a CU student. I want to zoom out and think about just sort of like, okay, where can your career take you? And think about it, maybe not from the student perspective, but from the professional. So Heather, I'm calling you first since you're the most seasoned veteran of our panel here. Just how did you choose to go into either the design side of the industry or the construction side? So it always feels like there's kind of a split that you have to decide in your career, and you've been on both sides of it.
Yeah. I think I feel like in some ways it chose me. I thought I wanted to be in design, but ultimately my path led me towards construction. But I think a lot of it is just testing out as much as you can, whether that's through courses, offered through a university or getting summer internships, while you're studying, in between semesters, any kind of part-time work that you can do. For me, I was lucky, during one of the jobs that I was working in actually for CU shortly after I graduated. A close mentor of mine had shared my resume with the construction management firm, so I had only known about design side, and just kind of through my network, I got connected with the construction management firm and talked with them about what would a career path look like if I'm trying to, manage a construction project. And for me, and kind of, my personality, I really enjoyed, being able to plan and schedule and budget, and see how that allowed a project to come to fruition. And that really just was what kind of the construction management side of it was, that project management. So, I've been fortunate enough that that path, that I started on outside of school, has led me, exactly where I wanted and kind of was meant to be. But all the unique projects that I've been part of, it's just amazing to see kind of how that evolved. So again, it's like, I thought I wanted to be in design, and that's where the courses took me. But there's so many different ways that you can take your career in this type of industry. Like Mariana mentioned, there's so many different niches that exist in what we do. So that's what I would, kind of suggest is just any way you can kind of sample, what different items are out there to study and, practice.
Because Mariana, how did you then decide that you want to pursue lighting design?
Yeah, I had kind of a similar path as Heather. I had interned at a couple of different firms, and my first internship was both electrical engineering and lighting. And by doing that, I was able to, just dip my toes in the water really and understand what a full-time job looked like, even if it was just for a summer. And I was also able to, just go to work and work on things that really interested me, but also do some things that I was good at, but I wasn't really being fulfilled with. And so that's how I knew that I was going to lean more towards the lighting side because I was finding more fulfillment in that I was enjoying that aspect of work more. But I do have to agree with Heather in that if I hadn't done an internship, I think it would have been really hard to know what I was good at. And it helped me understand what I didn't want to do more than anything. And so even if you're interested in doing something, but you're not sure it's the right fit, I think you should just try things out. Nothing is ever permanent. If you ever want to change your mind, you definitely can. Um, and you can make a pivot, kind of similar to how JT transferred. Like nothing is ever permanent. So just try things out, be brave, and it's always a learning process. And I think that's really what helped get me into lighting because I tried things even if I didn't know that was 100% what I wanted to pursue.
So I guess just to make sure everyone knows what it is, could you maybe just explain quickly what an internship is,
Yeah.
and like what the type of work that you did as an intern?
Yeah, for sure. So an internship in my definition of an internship is just working maybe over a short period of time, but just trying to get exposed to a certain type of work that you're interested in. So for my internship, I was at an engineering consulting firm. So um, I just basically for the summer, I worked as if I was a full-time employee, but then when school started back up, it was kind of like, oh, I'm going back to school. And so there was really no expectation, really. But it was just a good experience for me to just try things out and just go to work as if I was a full-time employee. Hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's great. I just want to make sure everyone that may not know what an internship is. Yeah. JT, I remember you did a pretty interesting internship recent summer. Do you want to maybe share about that a touch?
Yeah, sure. I've done two internships in the past, and my first one was kind of what got me interested in the construction industry. I don't know how many people here are from Colorado, but about 3 years ago, Marshall Fire happened and burnt down a large portion of my city. And so I was able to work with a local residential contractor, and every internship is different. No matter what you're in an engineering firm internship or a contracting internship, and kind of my internship was kind of based around making sure that a lot of the residential like kind of construction was up to code with the city. So I was communicating with the city a lot. And then also kind of safety wise, I was making sure that a lot of our subcontractors were um, like kind of pertaining to like the social and OSHA standards.
Great. Um, Heather, moving over to sort of your perspective, since you've seen lots of different students graduate from CU and other universities and sort of see like the different careers that they can pursue, could you maybe share a little bit more or share a bit about, what types of careers exist in the AEC field, since it seems like there's so many and it's sometimes can be hard to choose.
Yeah, yes, there definitely are so many. I think that's what always has amazed me from the start of my career to even to this day is that there's so many different ways that you can take it. I think this career field has different, nuances. So when somebody finds their passion, there's likely a career that exists somewhere in the industry. If you think about it, like nothing that exists in our world would not exist without the engineering, design, and construction industry, right? The roads that we drive on, the buildings we live in, where we get our food, how, the facilities that build our tech devices, like, there has to still be an energy plant built by somebody, designed by somebody. So it's kind of crazy if you think about that, what we do is pretty important to life. And then you kind of drill into that and you realize that, there's the civil aspect of becoming an expert in dirt and then you got to build the structure, right? You become a structural engineer and there's all sorts of different structures, but even within that, I've seen people who have built a career just becoming like a forensic structural engineer, and they purely just go into buildings that have started to fail and they're investigating why that structure is failing, but somebody found that to be their passion. Instead of doing new structures, they wanted to investigate why old ones might be failing. Then you got, your like your MEP systems, so your mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems, designing the airflow through a building, designing the lighting, designing how to get water. I mean, those are just the simple ones, but there's so many intense buildings that have complex systems. But it's just there's so many different ways, all the way down to then once something exists, right? Like think about furniture and how people use the space. We need somebody to design all of that, build all of that, everything that goes into our built environment. Somebody's found a passion for. So I could go on and on and on, but yeah, there's just so many ways you can take it. And I think a lot of times too, you may start a certain path, and then as you kind of go down again, you may not know it by the time you finish high school or college or a master's, but a couple years into your career, 10 years in, you may find that niche that then you can really kind of further your passion.
I guess kind of building off that, is there anyone, I guess I'll throw this to any of the panelists, what's like the coolest career that you've heard of, that you just heard someone doing that, tangentially related to this field?
I think underwater welding's pretty cool.
Underwater
Like
welding?
yeah, but that's what came to my mind first.
Yeah, nuclear power.
Yeah, one of my so I studied architectural engineering as well. One of my friends, he went into the nuclear side of engineering as well. So he has an architectural engineering degree, but he operates nuclear power plants. So quite a different career shift.
Mhm.
Great. I guess, Mariana, just to make sure, or I think lighting design is one of those kind of niches, if we're on that topic of niches in this industry, is one of those that is quite different than some of the, or quite different than other parts of the field in that it really tries to blend that creativity piece and the engineering. So you want to maybe just explain a little bit about like what that looks like, where how you're doing design as well as in engineering and how that all fits together.
Yeah, definitely. So in my day-to-day job, I think we we do have a mix of the creativity and the engineering, because sometimes we're thinking through like an office building, and we may be thinking about, oh, what are the colors? How do we want the person walking through the office to feel? Do we want them to be stressed? How does the lighting make them feel? Are they, feeling cozy? Do they feel sleepy? But at the same time, we have to run calculations and make sure that the light is enough so that they can do their job in the office. Um, and we have to ensure that, we're not consuming so much power that the lights are going to make all of the building, like use so much energy throughout the building that it can't operate. Um, and so it is a fun balance because some days I feel one side of my brain being pulled in one direction, and then the next day it's different. And some days might be making presentations or um, trying to understand like what do we want the light to do. And so I think lighting is very unique in that sense, and I think that that balance did help me decide that's what I wanted to do with my architectural engineering degree because I was really interested in structural engineering, but then at the end of the day, I knew that the structure was like life or death. But if the lights didn't turn on, it wasn't life or death. And so I think it's like a fun balance, but it is necessary for a building, and it's one of those things that you overlook. When you step into a building, you just know there's going to be light, but that comes from somewhere. And so it is a fun balance that um, I challenge everyone to um, just be open to the possibility of pursuing a lighting career because it doesn't seem obvious until you get there in those classes.
Thank you. So one thing that I always like to talk about in the senior design class, so the final class, the culminating class that you take as an architectural or civil engineering student here, is that around collaboration and teamwork. No one builds a building by themselves. No one designs a building by themselves. Heather, since you've worked on, so many different projects, do you want to share a little bit about just like how that collaboration works? Like, what does it look like to be an architect? What does it look like to be an engineer or a construction professional, on any given project?
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, I mean, nobody can build a building by themselves, at least, not to the scale that we're talking about. And this industry is definitely a people industry. I definitely found that you can't do your job well unless you can work in a team environment, and work with people from all different backgrounds and specialties. So it's not only like the team that exists within your company. So for example, like I've got, other Whiting Turner team members that are on projects that I'm on. And, Mariana, same thing. She's going to have team members that are internal to her company, but then you're sitting there and you're working with external people that become, sometimes on these larger projects, you'll work with them for, 2 or 3 years, straight. And if you're lucky enough to do multiple projects together, then you kind of you're building that relationship. But we're working with, an owner or a client who has hired us to build the project. There's an architect who's been hired. There's engineers of all different disciplines. And that's just the design part of it. Then you get into the construction side, actually building it. I would say on our larger projects, we'll hire anywhere from 20 to 40 trades companies, right? So those are the companies that do the earthwork, pour the concrete, do the drywall and framing, do the mechanical systems. Those are all, companies that are experts in that trade. And so every one of those has a representative. They've got multiple team members that you're working with. And so it's just a daily effort that you learn to come across multiple personalities. I think a lot of what we do is trying to make sure that everybody's getting along, as well, sometimes on our larger projects. And not everybody does, but it's something that we focus on and try to get a culture where, everybody is there because they love what they do. For the most part, they love the piece of the project that they're contributing to. And so if you can kind of emphasize that and really excite people about a project and get them excited to bring to the table, what they have to, that's where we see like our projects be successful.
Lovely. And I guess Aiden, you're in senior design with me right now, and you're working on a project. Do you want to maybe talk about, excuse me, what your senior design project is and just how that collaboration's going?
Yeah. So for our senior design project, we're looking at creating a new student space on CU Boulder's campus. So at the beginning of this semester, we got to pick out teams, each of us specializing in a different part of architectural engineering, so that we can come together and work together to design a building. Basically, it's pretty much what you do in ACE, but on a more technical scale. But it's really an integrated design process because I'm the structural lead working with mechanical leads and the construction lead to make sure that our budget's fine and that our mechanical systems can fit in the building around the structural systems. But so the class really takes all of your courses that you've taken thus far, and your communication skills so that you and a team can work together to actually produce a building. But it's really fun class. It's really a great way to finish off your schooling, I think.
So would you say that having, done your experience of your ACE project has certainly helped you, with your senior
Yeah,
design
yeah,
project?
it's very much similar, I think. Yeah, it's a really great thing that you guys will get experience with it if you're in the ACE program. It's pretty much the exact same format, just a little bit more technical. Yeah.
I guess JT, have you seen how your ACE experience has helped you, in different classes or different projects that you've been working on, either in school or through your internships?
I mean, of course. I mean, ACE will get you introduced to all the different kind of main categories of what like a building process looks like, where you have your lighting, you have your MEP, you have your structural. ACE introduces you to all that kind of concepts, and then kind of CU Boulder kind of brings it all together, and you get to learn more about all those different kind of subcategories of what a building has. So that's pretty awesome.
Great. So does anyone else have anything else they want to add on, just sort of different aspects of careers that you can pursue, or are you all right moving on to next topic?
Can I add something really
Yeah,
fast?
yeah, please.
Um, I think something that's really great about CU is, like I said earlier about our size. We're not the biggest major, but we have one of the largest career fairs. Companies want to come to CU Boulder to hire. So that opportunity to get that first internship, get that first job will always be there at CU. Um, whether you're involved in an after school program or not, or um, if you're as ambitious as not, there'll always be like opportunities at CU.
Great, thanks for that. So thinking about, most of our attendees today are from or current high school students, either involved in ACE or currently involved in ACE or starting it up, maybe in the spring semester. And so if you could think back to, when you were in high school, what were some of the things that like you'd want to sort of tell your high school self as this, as these students are embarking upon, they're thinking about what their careers might look like in the built environment. So Aiden, maybe starting with you, do you have a piece of advice that you'd want to give to a high school student knowing what you know now?
Yeah, I think that you guys have so many different interests and you're at a turning point in your careers, you could say, going into college or wherever you may go. But I think you should take the time to explore the different fields you're interested in. Um, I looked into ACE when I was in high school and then electrical engineering, and then I went back to architecture and then back to civil engineering and then back to architectural engineering. And that was a long process, but I think going through that process really helped me find what I enjoyed, and what I wanted to do for a job after college. So I would just recommend for you guys to use your resources, connect with your mentors and your peers, and really explore the things you're interested in.
How about you, JT? Any pieces of advice thinking back, not too long ago, to where you were as a junior or senior in high school?
Yeah, you're doing the right thing by getting involved with the ACE. Kind of carrying that over to college. Continue to get involved, whether that's with a school-related club that's not related to your major or a club that's related to your major. There's so many different clubs that will connect you to people and allow you to grow those relationships that you'll have for the rest of your lives. Um, Along with the ACE mentor program. ACE is kind of structured around you meeting a professional and building a kind of a bond with your mentor. So kind of use that bond, continue that bond, and really use it to develop your relationships within ACE and your career.
So I guess sort of that Aiden, I remember us ch chatting one time about, your mentors that you've had through ACE. Do you have any advice about how you can make the most of your ACE mentor program experience, especially in
Yeah,
light of
I think
your mentors?
I think I think mentor wise, stay connected. Um, my mentors loved helping me. They'll love helping you. It makes people feel good to help each other. I think Andy, you're out there in the crowd. Andy was my mentor in high school, and throughout my sort of journey, she's helped me a lot. Whether that's just asking career questions or getting advice, or actually having me come down to her firm and shadow. So the connections you make with your mentors, but also your peers, is a really valuable thing because it's just like an information bank, a shared information bank where you can reach back and sort of get help when you need. But I think that's a really important part of ACE. So make contacts with your mentors and stay in touch.
Heather, what would be, if you were talking to a high school student right now, is there one piece of advice that you'd want to give to them as what they should think about?
Um, I'll do two pieces of advice, like
Okay,
quick
two's
pieces.
fine.
No, it's fine. I think talk to the people in your life now that maybe are in a career field that you're interested in. So whether that's a friend of a parent or it's somebody you know through church or somebody you're in your part-time job you already have or whomever it may be, just talk to them and see what it's like for them and what they do in their day-to-day life in their career. Maybe ask if you can shadow them or just see what they do for a day. I think you'd be surprised that people love to just kind of show and talk about what they do. And I think the second advice, kind of part of that, is just see if there's an internship you can do, even while you're in high school. I say, Whiting Turner, the company, we have hired high school interns. You don't have to be in college to do an intern, and it's helped folks to just see what they even wanted to study. So that'd be my advice: is that it's never too soon to just kind of start getting a feel for what that would look like in kind of your life.
Great, thank you. And Mariana, is there anything that comes to your mind as to what you want to tell someone in high school?
Yeah, I think the main point that I want to just share with you all is just to be brave and to have confidence. I remember when I was in high school, and it was like a really intimidating and stressful time of life to not know what the future holds, but just have confidence in your decision. Whatever you do, do it with 100%, even if you're not sure. Because people will recognize that. And I think if I hadn't, just stepped out in confidence and being brave and trying to internships, even if I didn't even want to do that job, I don't think I would have had the opportunity to go to grad school or to get a job right after college. So I think and this doesn't really apply to just school, but just in life in general, just be brave and just have confidence, because that will take you a long way in these next few years of college.
Great, thank you for that. So I want to make sure we have some time to allow the audience, in case you have questions, to ask them of our panel. So if you see the Q&A feature down at the bottom of the Zoom toolbar, if you click that Q&A, I'd love for you to ask your own questions, either to the panel in general or to a specific speaker. So if you want to take a moment and pull that up and ask your questions, we can then share those with the panel and get them answered. But while you're typing those out, you're thinking about them, I'll just give a quick overview of just the civil and architectural engineering majors that we have at CU, and highlight some of the exciting opportunities that there are. And then we'll shift it back to the panel for you to answer or to address some of those questions that you have coming in. So I like to always talk about civil and architectural engineering at CU Boulder um, by talking about a couple of grand challenges. The challenges that we as engineers really need to tackle, that in order to best serve society, as that's what we do as engineers. So a couple of the grand challenges that we've really been focusing on as a department are in the civil engineering world are that of managing water resources. How do we make sure that we have enough water today as well as enough water in the future, especially in the face of a changing climate? So we have a number of courses that focus around designing, constructing, and then managing critical water resources. As you'll see, a common theme that we have at CU Boulder is that of sustainability and considering climate change. So the second grand challenge is really how do we now take our existing civil infrastructure and have it adapt to climate change? So for instance, during rising sea levels, how can we improve our infrastructure to make sure that it can withstand the future climate? Our infrastructure is also aging. So in addition to making sure it can withstand future conditions, how do we also make sure that we're able to rehabilitate our aging infrastructure in the US? And as we're then thinking about that aging infrastructure, how do we make sure that it's resilient to natural disasters? So not just natural disasters coming from climate change like hurricanes, but also those coming from earthquakes. So that way we can design our communities to be able to bounce back quickly from those natural disasters. On the architectural engineering side, a couple of grand challenges that we focus on and do a lot of coursework around. The first one of those is that of indoor environmental quality. If you remember back a couple of years ago to the pandemic, indoor air quality became a real concern, where we needed to make sure that we were bringing in safe or air that was safe for everybody and not infected. So that's something that we really focus on is improving the indoor environmental quality of the spaces that we design. Another grand challenge is that of energy security and energy efficiency. So buildings, they demand about 40% of all the energy that we produce. That's a huge amount of energy. And so architectural engineers are really making sure that one, we're designing efficient systems within buildings that don't demand a lot of energy, as some of the panelists talked about, as well as how do we then generate electricity, say through the use of solar panels on our buildings. So architectural engineers really think about the balance between the energy that's being consumed, as well as then being produced. Another grand challenge is that of how do we consider the climate impact of our buildings? So construction materials are really energy and carbon intensive to manufacture. And so we have a couple of courses focus on how do we even, one, measure the carbon emissions that come from construction materials as well as then reduce them. And the last one of those is JT mentioned in terms of resilience, and as well as what I just mentioned on the civil engineering side of infrastructure. We also need to think about how our buildings are going to be designed for resilience. So we have a couple of faculty who do a lot of research on resilience. And one that I want to highlight on the architectural engineering side is thinking about electrical system resilience. So how do we design our electrical systems to still operate and work even when we have power outages, which are becoming more and more common. And so, as a civil or architectural engineering major, we break this down into a couple of different subdisciplines. So there's two subdisciplines that are common between civil and architectural engineering as majors. That is the construction engineering and management, as well as on the structural engineering disciplines. And then within architectural engineering, we have three disciplines: mechanical, electrical, and illumination engineering. So mechanical systems really focus on how do we heat and cool buildings efficiently and bring in that ventilation, as I mentioned. Electrical systems is focused on how do we distribute power, so that way we know that how do we distribute power through a building. So that way when we plug something in the wall, we know it's going to turn on and operate. And then illumination engineering, as Mariana has talked about a lot today, is around how do we light or make sure that the light in spaces is at the appropriate levels and good for us as humans. Within civil engineering, there's a couple of subdisciplines as well. So geotechnical engineering is really focused on how do our buildings and our infrastructure interact with the soil, and how do we engineer our soils and understand how they're going to perform. And so that way, our buildings are still going to be standing and safe. Water resources, as I mentioned, thinking about how we're managing those, which is especially important in the arid West. And then the other subdiscipline of civil engineering that we have is environmental engineering. I will note, though, we also have an environmental engineering major here at CU, which is quite a popular one as well. So with that, I see a couple questions came in to the chat. And so I see if we can answer those. And if not, then we'll be able to wrap up our question or our webinar today. So the first one here, yeah, Michelle, if you might be able to answer it around the ACE Mentor program, would you go ahead and, so the question being, what is the format of the ACE Mentor program? How do you meet with your mentor, and just really what is it all about?
So the ACE Mentor program, and I know both John and Aiden have talked about this a little bit, you do meet with mentors, and depending on where you're located within the country, they run just a little bit differently. Many run within the scope of a school and meet in an after school in a space within the school, and mentors come to the school. And I think most of them in Colorado, and Aiden, John, correct me if I'm wrong, meet actually at a firm. And so the students will go to the firm and meet there and still meet with mentors. Um, so the nice thing about ACE is that it's flexible depending on where you're at. And we bring industry people and people who are working in the AEC fields, and we bring them in and work with high school students. Many of the high school students are given a challenge, I guess is the best way to say it, or at the beginning of the program year, where they're asked to complete some sort of project by the end of the program, and they learn about the different areas or different fields within the AEC or the build industry throughout that those 15 or 16 weeks. And then they either present or showcase their project at the end. So sometimes they're asked to do something like design a zoo habitat, and they work together as teams to create that, or a library, or modernize a library, for example. So they're given a challenge, and I don't know, Aiden and John, do you want to talk about, do you remember any of the challenges you were given in your ACE time?
JT, you want to go first?
Sure. I think it was a little bit different for Aiden and I because it was during the COVID times.
Oh,
So we actually had kind of Zoom meetings with our mentors, and they would kind of give a presentation about what they do, and then they would continue to help us with our project. Um, Aiden did 2 years of ACE, so he can say what he did for his first year. But for our year that we did it together, we designed and kind of kind of designed an outside and some MEP layouts of a school. Um, and then we worked with obviously like structural engineer, MEP mentors on how to actually do that, whether that's in a software or using kind of just like our hand calculations to kind of design it. Also Ace got a so they for at least for the project that I worked on, they picked an actual kind of project that was actually happening in the Denver area. And so come like March, they Ace provided an opportunity for me to go visit that actual site that the project is on, and I went and toured it with like three other students in the whole ACE mentor program, and I loved it because I was like it was like a private tour of the construction, like the site itself. So I got to go all over.
very cool.
Yeah, and for me, I did it during COVID year, so it was fully on Zoom. Um,
Uh, yeah.
like working in groups on Zoom and then meeting with your mentors on Zoom. But like you said, you're given a request for proposal and are tasked with designing something to come up with that. So for me, it was a tiny home community in downtown Denver. So I worked with a team around Colorado, and we designed a tiny home community. It's really fun.
Awesome. And so with both of those projects or challenges, even though they were remote, we've gone back to in person, even though some affiliates or groups have virtual teams. We've tried to be back in person, but they meet with mentors and so if the theme of the week is to talk about landscape architecture, they would bring in mentors that work in that field, and then the students would design or talk with those mentors about what they would like their tiny home community to look like, or what they would like the school to look like on the outside. And then it's if it's MEP week or mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineering week, then they bring in industry people from those fields, and then they talk about what those plans look like and how to read. Sometimes it's how to read a blueprint. So there's lots of different activities that are encompassed within ACE that give you the special niches in each of the jobs, and bring in mentors that are just excited to work with young people and are excited to bring you into the workforce and help you find what you're looking for. So hopefully that answers your question. And if you have more, please let me know.
Thanks, Michelle. We have one more question, and then I want to have some closing thoughts. So maybe we can just touch on this one briefly. So does anyone have an opinion about academically what makes CU stand out compared to other civil or architectural engineering schools?
I mean, I think I would go back to how broad our program is. We get a lot of um, exposure to different things. I mean, math is math, so you'll learn that wherever you go. But I think our faculty here is really excellent. And Jay cares about us, the other faculty cares about us, and I think that the relationships we build here really make a difference. I know JT talked a little bit about the career fair. Um, People really like coming to those and just talking to you about what you want to do, and I think that's one of the things that kind of sets us apart.
Adding on to that, I mentioned earlier about kind of like the different research opportunities and things we have here at CU to like make our classes more fun. A lot of our classes have labs that are a part of them, whether that's a like a lab itself or a recitation. where we were able to use like actual real world kind of um, programs or softwares to really enhance our learning. Um, so I think that's really special about CU.
Great. Thanks, Aiden and JT. There's one question from earlier about the math requirement or expectation for architectural engineering program. So I can answer this one for both architectural and civil. Most students start off in Calculus 1 when they enter CU Boulder, but we do have some students that start in pre-calculus. So the math requirements are not the most stringent, and there's plenty of pathways for success then around the math requirements since we recognize that students are coming from many different high school backgrounds. And if you have more specific questions about your situation, feel free to reach out to me, and I can get you connected with the right person on CU to help you answer that question. Well, great. Does anyone have any closing thoughts? I know we're at time, and I want to make sure we end relatively on time. But I just want to open up in case anything came to mind from any of our panelists before we say thank you.
I just want to say thanks everyone for listening. Yeah, I think my closing remarks are just to be brave and do it in confidence. So, in school and life.
I also want to say, um, Aiden and I are obviously here because we're alumni, but we want to come, like we're wanting to talk because we had such a great time in ACE. So I think by doing ACE is you're already going in the right direction. So be pat yourself on the back for that.
Well, great. Well, thank you all very much, panelists, for your time and sharing your thoughts and experiences. Really appreciated you having that. And thank you, all the attendees out there. Thanks all for joining on this Tuesday evening. Hope that everyone has an excellent night. I'll stop the recording and stick around here in case there's anything that still remains.